Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this product animation in Blender step by step. I'm using an RTX 3060 and a Ryzen 5 5600. Let's begin. For this video, I'm going to use this energy drink 3D model that I found on Sketchfab by Niazwati. If you want to model your own energy drink, I have a tutorial on it, link in the description. Let's start animating, add in a camera, and rotate or position it into place so it's facing the front of our object. Press this button to go into camera view. Next in the camera settings, go to Viewport Display, then Composition Guides, and finally click Thirds. This will help us guide our scene. Now let's set our timeline to have around 75 frames, and on the final frame, rotate your energy drink to fit within the camera bounds, making sure it is centered between the two top thirds of the camera like this. Now with the energy drink selected, press I and add in a location, rotation, and scale keyframe. Now back on frame 1, scale the energy drink down and rotate up so it's almost fully facing upwards, and add in another location, rotation, and scale keyframe. Lastly, let's go to around 5 to 10 frames before the animation ends and add in another keyframe like before, but press G to move it back to around frame 20. This gives us a nice slow-mo effect on our energy drink. You can repeat this same process for the camera. This is where the fun begins. Let's create our liquid simulation. Press Shift plus A and add in a cube, then use G plus Z to position it underneath the energy drink. Now go to Object, Quick Effects, Quick Liquid. Now you should get a domain awesome. Scale the domain so it have enough room to take up your whole scene, then scale it out the front so the domain extends far beyond the distance of the camera. We are doing this so that there will be minimal liquid getting in the way of the camera's view later on. Now let's set up our domain settings. While the domain is selected, go over to the physics settings and change the resolution to be between 185 and 250. My finale render was at 250. Under Cache, set the ending frame to the same as your timeline, which should be 75, and change the type to modular. Make sure to click Is Resumable. Now let's click on the cube we created earlier and go to its physics settings. This is where our liquid is going to come from, so make sure the type is set to flow and tick the initial velocity box and change the Z to something around 25 mph. However, this number could vary from scene to scene depending on your scale. Now go to our energy drink and in its physics tab, select the fluid option and change the type to effector so it can interact with the fluid simulation. Lastly, make sure that your liquid cube is at this general position and scale under your energy drink. Now it's time to bake our simulation. In the domain settings, click on Bake Data and wait for the baking to bake. Now we can see our liquid simulation. Wow! That's amazing! Feel free to mess around with these settings until you get exactly what you're looking for. But right now, it's just a bunch of particles. So let's make it a mesh. Back in the domain settings, tick the mesh box and set the up-res factor to 4 and take the smoothing up to 2. Warning, this can be a little harsh on your computer. Click Bake and wait for the bake to bake. Awesome! To clean this up, go to the Modifiers tab on your liquid simulation and add in a smooth modifier and set the factor to 1 and the repeat to 2. Now, this is what we have. Wow! Amazing! Let's set up our render settings. Go to your Render Properties tab and change the render engine to cycles and use your GPU if you have one available. Then under Render, set your max samples to 750 and your minimum samples from 250 to 500. Make sure the denoise option is also ticked. Now in the shader editor select world and use Shift plus A to add an environment texture. We're going to use our HDRI from POLLYHAVEN.com link in the description to light our scene. I'll use this one. Open the HDRI in the environment texture to light our scene. It's time to texture our liquid simulation. For this, I'm going to show you one of my favorite Blender add-ins called Blender Kit. Blender Kit is an all-in-one asset library for Blender that gives you access to lots of free models, textures, and HDRIs. I'll leave the download link in the description. To texture our liquid simulation, I'm going to select Materials on Blender Kit and then search for water. Wow, this one looks perfect. I'll drag and drop this texture onto my model and adjust the values to my liking. And just like that, our liquid simulation has custom and polished textures completely free. Now it's finally time to add a background. Press Shift+A to add in a plane and subdivide it a lot. Now go to Modifiers tab and add in a displacement modifier, and in the texture settings, set the image to the clouds preset and adjust the scale to your liking, and then shade smooth. Make sure the background takes up your entire camera view. For the material, create new and make the color a dark green and boost the metallic to 1 and the roughness to around 0.118. Adding in some external smaller point lights around the scene can also help clean it up. For some finishing touches, we can select our camera and in the settings, tick the depth of field option and make our energy drink the focus point. Then set the f-stop of something around 0.5, and with that, we are pretty much done. Render your animation however you'd like to, and you should get a result like this. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'll be sure to respond. Make sure to subscribe.